بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And this is our second episode of Surah Al Qamar, Quran analysis. And inshallah today, last week, we looked at the grammar, the nahu and the sarf of ayah number 1 to 5 of Surah Al Qamar. And today, inshallah, we're going to just discuss, just so that we can understand what ayah number 1 to 5, what it entails. And of course, this series, as you all are aware, is based on the Deeper Look series of Surah Al Qamar from Bayina Institute. You can check that on Bayina TV by Ustad Nu'man Ali Khan, and maybe other sources here and there that I may find some information that I want to share with you, but mostly based on the Bayina explanation of these surahs. So make sure you check that out as well, because I don't take everything from Ustad. I take what I feel is necessary for us to remember and discuss, and that's what I share with you guys here. Okay, so ayah number 1 to 5, basically, اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. The hour has drawn near and the moon has split. وَإِنْ يَرَوْا آيَةً يُعْرِضُوا وَيَقُولُوا سِحْرٌ مُسْتَمِرٌ. And when they see a single ayah, a single sign, they turn away. يُعْرِضُوا, they dismiss it, they turn away. وَيَقُولُوا سِحْرٌ مُسْتَمِرٌ. And they say that it's just an ongoing magic. It's just same old magic. It's just, we've seen this before. It's an old trick. Or it's just something that keeps on going. Yeah, so that's what they say. And we will look at the meanings of mustamir, inshallah, when we get there. وَكَذَّبُوا وَاتَّبَعُوا أَهْوَاءَهُمْ. And they called it a lie, they rejected it, and they chose to follow their desires. So they rejected the sign and chose their own desires. وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٍ. And every matter is settled. Yeah, every matter will be settled, or every matter is settled. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُمْ مِنَ الْأَنْبَاءِ مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٌ. And certainly it has come to them news, or something of news, of great news, أَنْبَاء مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٌ. Something that would deter them, something of a deterrence, something that would stop them, something that would prevent them, or will hold them back. Yeah. What is it? حِكْمَةٌ بَالِغَةٌ. And we will look also at the role حِكْمَةٌ بَالِغَةٌ it plays in the sentence structure. So حِكْمَةٌ بَالِغَةٌ فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ. Far-reaching wisdom. فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ has two ways to look at it, as we shall see. So it can either be a negation, so it can either be a negative sentence, or it can be a question. So فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ, what would reminders benefit them? That's a question. Or reminders have no benefit for them. That's a negation. So that's the part we're going to look at, inshallah. Okay, so let's begin. Right. Okay. So let's look at the introduction here. Oh, too much. Okay. Yeah, we'll just have to deal with that. Okay. So before we even begin, I just have to say that this surah is a very heavy surah for me. And I think it's a big challenge for me. SubhanAllah, may Allah make it easy for me, because so far, it's been quite challenging. But alhamdulillah, I'll be able to present something. And hopefully, I'll be able to also generate some ideas in your minds that you can start pondering about this surah and share your reflections, and whatever comes to your mind, share them with us. You can post them in the group as well, so we can all benefit, inshallah. Okay, so that's a major disclaimer that this is already a challenge, and I can feel that is a challenge. But we will do whatever we can be able to do. Inshallah, may Allah make it easy and beneficial for all of us. Now, before we even go into ayah number 1 to 5, it's important that we talk about a little bit about the introduction of this surah, because this surah, there's a lot of scholarly conversation that has happened, especially the first ayah, because as you're aware, there's the miraculous incident that happened at the time of the Prophet, the account of the moon splitting, the miracle of the moon splitting. And because of that, some Mufassir have said that this surah, this ayah particularly, is referring to that incident. Some have said, no, it is not referring to that incident. And because of that, we need to get into that subject a little bit and just discuss that. So you're all familiar. I hope you're all familiar with that event. If you're not, please watch the seerah Sirah by Dr. Yasir Qadi is a very good one. There's also another one by Sheikh Abdul Nasir Janga. Watch any one of those surahs or just Google the moon splitting and you'll probably get some information about that. Now, basically, oh, I said basically, okay. The account of, so the moon splitting, there are two narrations by Abdullah ibn Mas'ud that I mentioned in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. So the one in Sahih Bukhari mentions that narrated Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, during the lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the moon was split into two parts. And on that, the Prophet said, bear witness. So that is the hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. Then you go to the hadith in Sahih al-Muslim where Abdullah ibn Mas'ud says, we were along with Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam at Mina, that the moon was split up into two. The moon was split up into two. Yeah. So there's so many ahadith about but I'm just going to quote the one in Sahih Bukhari and the one in Sahih Muslim, although there are so many other ahadith, some of which are not authentic. So be careful about that. But in any case, these are the ones that I'm going to present to you, and then you can just research more about that. So we were along, this is what the hadith says in Sahih Muslim. We were along with Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam at Mina. That moon was split up into two. One of its parts was behind the moon, and the other one was on the other side of the mountain. Sorry, was behind the mountain, and the other one was on this side of the mountain. Then Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, bear witness, ishhadu, bear witness. So that account happened. We are not rejecting the fact that the moon split. This is an authenticated hadith, is an authenticated incident. It happened. That's not what the scholars were debating upon. That's not where the debate is. The debate is, well, a few may have said maybe it didn't happen or maybe it was something else or whatever, but that's majority view is that incident happened. That is one of the miracles of the Prophet ﷺ. But the question is, how is it connected to this surah or this ayah, if at all there's a connection? That's what we're going to discuss today or right now. So there are three views from the Islamic scholarship and historical scholarship. The first one is that this ayah refers to the moon splitting miracle. Okay, so اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. انشق القمر يعني when it happened, the miracle of the moon splitting. So that's the majority view. Okay. Then another view from the scholars is that this ayah, it has nothing to do with that miracle. That miracle happened, it's fine. But this ayah is talking about something that will happen in the future, i.e. the day of judgment. So some are saying this already happened and it's referring to that incident. Some are saying, no, that incident happened, it's fine. But there'll be another incident on the day of judgment, وَخَسَفَ الْقَمَرِ, that this event is referring to, the eclipse of the moon, and basically the signs of the day of judgment, what will happen on the judgment, and the Jumi' ash-shams wal qamar, when the moon and the sun will be conjoined, will be brought together, and so much will be happening on the skies. So that's another view. The third view, which is a very minority view, is that this phrase is a figure of speech, like an idiom. It's like an idiomatic expression. Yeah. So inshaq al-qamar basically means matters became clear, things became apparent, the truth came out. So it has nothing to do with the moon. It's not literal. It's just a figure of speech. It's an expression. So its meaning is that the truth came out. Now, this is a very minority view because there's no anywhere else in the Quran where inshaq al-qamar has been used this way. In fact, inshaq al-qamar, as we shall see, has been, inshaqqa, the verb inshaqqa, not necessarily connected with the moon, but the verb inshaqqa has been used in a more literal sense, in a cracking, splitting type of way, not in an expression. Okay, so this is why this is a very minority view. Okay, so that's what scholars have said about that. All right, now there are a couple of challenges arising from this miracle, the moon splitting miracle. All right, so the first problem that arises, that one could say, okay, if the moon actually split in half and one side of it was behind the mountain and one side was on this other side, how come there's no scientific evidence? How come there's no proof? I mean, there should have been like at least, because you know the moon is connected to the earth. There's a lot of connection. There's gravitational force. It's connected to the tidal waves. So much chaos would have happened on earth if at all the moon split. Or even if that's not the case, maybe there would have been a fissure or a crack or a sign of left behind or something to show that, you know, this event actually happened. So there's a scientific problem. How do we answer that? How do we say that the moon actually split without any scientific evidence? That's number one. Number two, there's the historical problem. How come nobody else saw it? How come it was just a few Sahaba? Even some Sahaba didn't see it, by the way, because maybe they were sleeping, I don't know, or maybe they were far away or something. So not all Sahaba saw it, first of all. And then nowhere else, apart from that one guy, that one king, I think in India or something, that said maybe he saw it, and then he became Muslim later. But anywhere else in the world, nobody else saw this miracle. So the question then becomes is, how do we know that it's true if nobody else saw it? Yeah, so there's that historical problem as well, or the historical accuracy of it. And then the third one, which is the most important really, is the Quranic problem. What is the Quranic problem? The Quranic problem is that you have to understand the other ahadith that I did not read to you. They state that the mushrikun of Mecca, the disbelievers, they came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, look, if you're really the Prophet, if you've been sent by Allah, then prove to us. Come on, give us a miracle. Show us. If you show us, we'll believe you. So the Prophet ﷺ pointed to the moon and the moon split. That's the summary of it. Now, the Quranic argument is that if a people ask for a sign and Allah gives them a sign and they reject that said sign, then what follows is punishment. What follows is annihilation, destruction. That's the policy of destruction in the Quran. You take any nation that was destroyed. This is what happens. They were given a sign, they rejected the sign, they were punished. They were given several signs, they rejected the signs, they were punished. So that's the order of events. But in this case, they asked for a sign, they were shown a sign, they rejected the sign, the sky did not like fall down on them, the earth did not swallow them, there was no floods, there was nothing. Like they just continue about their lives. So what's happening here? How can we say that this is a proof of prophethood? So those are the problems. Now, problem number one and problem number two is not really a problem for Muslims. This cannot be a problem. Scientific problem, it cannot be a problem for you. Why? Because miracles by nature are unscientific. The miracles by nature go against nature. You understand that? Like something is a miracle because it is going against natural phenomena. It is going against what we normally know as normal. That's why it's called a miracle. I see water, you know, splitting and taking a shape. That's a miracle because water does not have a shape on its own. It takes the shape of something else. So when Musa parts the sea and the sea becomes, you know, it takes on a shape, that's a miracle. That's not normal. I cannot prove miracles with scientific methods. So basically, the definition of miracles is something that goes against nature, something that goes against science. So that cannot be a problem for us because Allah, the one who created the moon to begin with from scratch, is able to break it, split it, crush it, smash it, and then put it back together again. Allah, the one who made the fire to become cold, the nature of fire is hot, but Allah, the one who created it as hot, is able to make it cold. So that's the miracle. Allah can do whatever he wants. So for us, scientific problem is not really a problem. Yeah. And then you come to the historical problem. Again, it's not really a problem because Allah, the one who created the moon, can make sure that some people see it and others do not see it. He can make it apparent for some people and blind it for other people. And he's the same God who basically Allah can do any of these things. So the fact that nobody else saw it from the other parts of the world does not make it untrue. That is a false argument. Okay, so I hope that's clear. So those are not problems for us. And for as long as, I mean, we believe in Allah, we haven't even seen him. So there's no scientific evidence to prove to me that God exists, and yet I believe in him. So these two are not really exactly a problem. Then you come to the Quranic problem. And this is kind of like where I got confused a little bit, and I'm going to be very honest with you, because again, I am a student just like you. So maybe I didn't understand correctly, or maybe I missed some information or whatever. So if you have more information, please correct me. Please feel free to let me know. If you've understood what Ustad was talking about here clearly, better than myself, then please feel free to share that so that we can all benefit. Now, from my understanding, which could be wrong, is that Ustad believes this is not a proof of prophethood. Like the splitting of the mirror of the moon is not really a proof of prophethood. It wasn't proving that he was a prophet. Okay, because he quoted those two ahadith which do not mention that the Quraysh asked for a miracle and so on and so forth. And he also believes that this is an eclipse. He strongly believes there's no like clear evidence for it, but he believes that it could be an eclipse. I am not of that view. Mostly because I didn't understand his angle. It wasn't clear for me. So if one of you understood the angle that Ustad was coming about of this splitting of the moon being an eclipse, or whether this ayah refers to an eclipse at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, I didn't understand that. Okay. So what I'm going to present to you is basically my own understanding of how, based on my own research, which could be wrong again, because I'm just a student, guys. So, and I have asked one of my teachers, but because he's very busy right now, so he'll probably get back to me whenever he has time, and I will share with you his thoughts. But for now, I'm just going to present what I concluded. Okay. Oh, interesting. So there's somebody here with some interesting thoughts. So my thoughts on this, we have Sarawar here. Paper arrived in Europe in the 11th century, and they could document history after that, mostly copying from Islamic history. China had paper in 1st century, but there were other parts of the world, so it's possible that they couldn't see the moon split. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible that they couldn't see the moon split. That's a very high possibility. Splitting moon could be a metaphysical event seen from physical world that did not affect the world. That's also a possibility, because spiritual events are metaphysical. I mean, Allah is in the metaphysical world. We can't see. It's in, when we say metaphysical, by the way, it's basically ghaib. Yeah, so it could be an unseen event happening in the physical world. It's a possibility. Okay. Yeah, those are good suggestions there. Thank you so much. Yeah, and if you have more, please just share them so that we can learn from each other again. Now, what's my understanding? My understanding is that this ayah could refer to both the actual splitting of the moon and the events to come in the Day of Judgment. So basically, my understanding is taking these two parts and just fusing them together and going with that, because that makes sense to me. And the reason why I came to that conclusion is because of how how the surah flows and the events that the surah talks about. So it talks about a sign. There's a sign. وَإِنْ يَرَوْا آيَةً. If they see a sign, what is this sign? It could be the splitting of the moon. It could be the Quran. It could be whatever. So it talks about a particular sign, and it also talks a lot about the Day of Judgment. So اقترب الساعة, اقتربت الساعة, talking about the Day of Judgment. Then after a while, it's going to describe the events on the Day of Judgment. Then towards the end, again, it's going to talk about the Day of Judgment. So to me, it sounds like Judgment Day is also a theme in this surah. And because of that, it makes sense that this event is linked to something that will happen later. So it's both, it's like referring to something that has happened before, and it's also alluding to something that will happen later. That's how I'm going to look at it, and how I'm going to present, inshallah, my views. Abdulaziz has shared some links here. I don't know what they are, but hopefully they will be of benefit to you guys as well. So, and I'm going to present to you why. So that's one reason why I feel like this surah, this ayah particularly, is talking about that actual splitting miracle and the future events, because of how the surah flows. That's my argument number one, if you will. My second argument, I think it will come later. I will explain it later. Let me see here. Yeah. So yeah, I think I will explain my argument as we go on. as we see how the surah flows. And hopefully it will make some sense for you. So what I'm going to present to you is my understanding. Again, feel free to disagree with me. Feel free to correct me. Feel free to share information about this surah and this ayah in particular. Now, before we delve into ayah number 1 to 5, it's important to remember the audience. This, as we mentioned last week, is a Makki surah. It's a surah that was revealed in Mecca, I think the 5th year or 4th year or maybe 60, around there, that time. That's when this surah was revealed. So we have to know the audience. And again, remember, there's the elite class, so the mushrikun, the leaders of Quraysh, who was vehemently fighting the Prophet ﷺ, and they're trying to harm him and trying to stop Islam from spreading. You have that class. And then you just have the normal, people who are neither here nor there. They're not really Muslims. They're not really like with the Quraysh. Like, they're just living their lives, normal lives. And then you have the Muslims as well. The Ali Sahaba, the staunch Muslims, the ones who actually held this Islam and brought it to Medina and then spread all over the world to us. Okay, so those are the kind of groups that are listening to this surah early on in that period. So let's go to ayah number 1 to 5. اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. We start with the word اقترب. Now, the word for nearing is قرب. قرب يقرب, from Karuma family. قرب, he neared, or he came near, or it neared. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, that would be good. I would like to see what Dr. Fadil Samirai has to say about اقترب, because I had some thoughts, but it would be good because he knows better than I do. So let's see if we can be able to play that as well. Is it the first link or the second link? Which one is it?
I think both are the same.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Meanwhile, I can just, it's almost loading, so. I don't know if you guys can hear the sound.
No.
You can't hear the sound. Okay, so I need to figure out how to share the sound. Share sound. Okay, there we go. How about now?
اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر.
آية يعد ويقول سحر مستمر. طبعا هذه تواترت بالأحاديث الصحيحة.
حدث بالفعل.
متواترة.
جيد.
يعني ذكر في حينها على السريع، يعني حسبت السلاسل الواردة في صحيح مسلم والبخاري هكذا أكثر من 24 سلسلة.
الله أكبر.
فقط في هذه.
ما شاء الله.
يعني على السريع. يعني
جيد.
وفي طبعا هو مروي في كتب أخرى. وإن يروا آية، قسم يظن أن هذا يقصد في يوم القيامة. لا، وإن يروا آية يعرضوا ويقولوا سحر مستمر. في يوم القيامة في ماذا؟ أي سحر يحدث ما هو أكثر من هذا.
صح.
في يوم القيامة البحار تتفجر والشمس تنخسف وتنكسف وكذا، والنجوم تتهاوى وتنكدر وتنتثر.
نعم. يعني انشقاق القمر كان وقتها
حصل،
ووضع على جبل وكذا.
نعم، رأوا حراء بينهما.
حراء يعني
حراء الجبل.
جبل حراء.
قال اشهدوا. طلبوا منه آية.
الكفار.
نعم. طلبوا منه آية فأراهم انشقاق القمر وقال اشهدوا. وهذه متواترة.
نعم.
حادثة متواترة.
ورأوه.
قسم قال هذا سحر، قالوا إذا سحركم فلن يسحر الناس جميعا. ولد تحت لحظة.
صح.
قسم قالوا سحرنا محمد.
الكل رأى انشقاق.
يعني الكل الموجودين الذين طلبوا منه. الناس ليسوا على موعد.
نعم.
يعني نحن الآن يعني في الليل يخسف القمر ويقولون خسف القمر ولا نعلم، لأن لسنا على موعد.
صحيح.
يعني في هذا الشيء.
صح.
فهم الذي طلبوا الآية، والصحابة كانوا موجودين ورووه بسلاسل كثيرة متعددة وهي متواترة عند أهل العلم، ويكفي أنها في القرآن وردت.
نعم.
نزولها في القرآن
صحيح.
هذا لا يدل على أنه رسول.
يدل عليه الصلاة والسلام.
Okay, so he didn't talk about اقترب, but he talked about the انشقاق القمر. You guys can still hear me, I hope.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, just to summarize what Dr. Fadel said there, he said the moon splitting actually happened, and he's of the view that that moon splitting actually refers to this event. Why? Because of the second ayah. The second ayah says, إِنْ يَرَوْا آيَةً. If they see a sign, يُعْرِضُوا. They dismiss it. They turn away. وَيَقُولُوا سِحْرٌ مُسْتَمِرٌ. That's just some magic, or that's just some ongoing magic. So he's of the view that they requested for a miracle. They was shown this miracle. They rejected this miracle. And he's not of the view that this is talking about an event on the Day of Judgment. So that's, and like I said, that's the majority of view. A lot of scholars say that this is actually referring to the moon splitting. I am of the view that it's both. So I'm keeping it safe. I'm of the view that it is both referring to that moon splitting, and it's also alluding to something that will also happen in future, because it just says ayatan. It doesn't say al-ayah. When they see the sign, if it said the sign, I'll be like, oh, moon splitting. But it just says a single ayah, one ayah, any ayah. So because of that kind of grammar, I'm more inclined to that it could be this ayah or that ayah. It could be this moon splitting, the moon splitting that happened in the past, or whatever event that's going to happen in the future about the moon. So that's what I'm going to present my case. Okay. And again, if you have any evidence, welcome to it, because this is still very unclear for me as I wait for response from my teacher. Anyway, let's talk about iqtaraba. Qaruba, like I was saying, is to come near, right? Iqtaraba. You see that there's additions. There's Hamzatul Wasl at the beginning. There's an added ta. So we took it from family 1 to family 8. And then there's a principle. إذا زاد حرفا زاد المعنى. If you increase a letter, you increase the meaning. So the idea is there's exaggeration being said here. When you take it from family 1 to family 8, which has more letters, basically mazid fihi, you increased in it. So you added more meaning to it. You added, not emphasis of that, but more of forceful meaning, exaggeration, urgency, which is captured in the word just iqtaraba. So Allah is not just saying the hour has drawn near or the hour has come near. Allah is saying, pay attention, the hour has drawn near. Like, can't you listen? Are you guys, like, there's some exaggerative form of the hour has drawn closely, extremely near. Pay attention. Yeah. So there's urgency being created in this word iqtaraba. Yeah. And then you have the fact that it's the past tense use. It's not yaqtaribu sa'a, because it keeps coming. Every day we live, we get closer and closer and closer. It's not yaqtaribu. It's iqtaraba. It's the past tense that is used. It's inshaqqa. It's a past tense that is used here. And again, this is why I believe it could be both, because we know remember when we did past tense, we said past tense can be used in a non-standard usage 3 ways. It could be used for dua. Obviously, this is not a dua. It can be used for promises and warnings. So this could be a warning. The hour is drawing near. What are you doing with your life? The moon is about to split. What are you doing with your life? So it could be like a warning, yeah, over something that happens in the future. And we know that past tense can be used in that sense. And also past tense, the original use of a past tense is to show something that has already happened. Like it's as good as it has already happened. Yeah, it's tubut, is established. Something that is permanent, something that is not moving. The hour is firmly established. The hour is firmly drawing near. So you can see already just in the language of iqtaraba alone, there's exaggeration, there's the past tense which shows permanence, tubut, and there's a lot of urgency being portrayed here, just in the word iqtaraba. We haven't even gone to inshaqqa yet. Now, اقترب الساعة, we know the Prophet ﷺ told us in a hadith that أنا والساعة كهاتين, and he took his two fingers and he lifted them up to show how close the relationship between him and the coming of the Day of Judgment. So we know that the Prophet ﷺ is the first sign of the Day of Judgment. So the minute the Prophet ﷺ came or became a prophet, basically he was the first sign of the Day of Judgment, right? So when he says اقتربت الساعة, the first sign has already come. What are you doing with your life? The first sign has already come. Why are you so deluded? Why are you still rejecting? Why are you still turning away? The first sign is already here. That should show you how near the hour is. اقتربت الساعة, because the first sign has already come. Do you see now how the urgency and how it's all connected together? So that's why the order even tells you that either this event could be the splitting of the moon or something that happens in future, because the Prophet ﷺ was given prophethood, was made prophethood, then later the splitting of the moon. Yes. Somebody wants to say something? Okay, I thought I had something. Anyway, yeah, so you had the Prophet ﷺ coming, and then the splitting of the moon, if you agree that this ayah is referring to that splitting of the moon, or if you agree that it's a future event, either way, the order just works. اقتربت الساعة, the Prophet ﷺ has come, وانشق القمر, and the moon has split. Whether it's that miracle that happened or something that will happen in the future, it both works. Now, the reason why I am slightly convinced that this is referring to the actual splitting of the moon is the word inshaqqa. So let's talk about this word inshaqqa. This word inshaqqa, the way it appears, has been mentioned in the Quran 5 times in 5 different surahs. Just the word inshaqqa, not the derivatives of it, like different versions of it, or just inshaqqa madi from family number 7. Inshaqqa, that word, 5 times. Of course, the other derivatives, they happen. Now, the first one, it happens in Surah Maryam. تكاد السماوات يتفطرن منه وتنشق الأرض وتخر الجبال هدا. So when they ascribed to Allah that Allah أن دعوا للرحمن ولدا, when they said that Allah, they attributed to Allah a son, the skies were about to crack open and the earth was about to split and the mountains were about to crumble, that they dare ascribe a child or a son to Allah. And before this ayat, there's actually mention of Qiyamah. So there are 2 main themes that are mentioned in Surah Maryam regarding this word inshaqqa. So there's the theme of blasphemy, what they said about Allah. They ascribed a son to him. That's blasphemous. And also there's a theme of Qiyamah, which is why I'm drawn to believe that it could also allude to something in the Day of Judgment. And then you have this surah, Surah Al Qamar, اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. اقتربت الساعة. What theme is that? Day of Judgment, Qiyamah. And also, what did they say? قالوا وإن يروا آية يعرضوا ويقولوا سحر مستمر. They saw the sign of Allah, they call this magic. That is blasphemous. How can you reject the sign of Allah and call it just, this is just magic? So you see again the theme of blasphemy and the Day of Judgment, and Yawmul Qiyamah. Then after that, it just goes on to Qiyamah. There's no more blasphemy. It's just, the themes, it just becomes Qiyamah. So to me, the main theme, because after that is Surah Rahman, the very next surah. This is Surah number 54. Surah number 55 is Surah Ar-Rahman, and it mentions this concept. فَإِذَا انشَقَّتِ السَّمَاءُ فَكَانَتْ وَرْدَةً كَالدِّهَانِ. Again, what is it talking about? Qiyamah, the Day of Judgment. And then you have in Surah Al-Haqqa, way later, I think 69. Way later in Surah Al-Haqqa, or maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. وَانشَقَّتِ السَّمَاءُ فَهِيَ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَاهِيَةٌ. انشقت السماء, again. So the theme of Qiyamah coming up there. And then the last one is in Surah Inshiqaq. Basically, the surah itself is called Inshiqaq, the splitting. إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ, when the sky is going to split asunder. Yeah. So you see the theme for Inshiqaq, it mostly comes with Qiyamah. And it only comes with Al Qamar this once. Most of the time is As-Sama or al-ard, something else, but not al-qamar. So that's what I found interesting about this word inshiqaq, and what made me to incline to the idea that it could also refer to a future event. It is referring to the actual moon splitting, yes, that's sign, but it could also refer to a future event based on how it has been used in the Quran. I hope that's clear. Okay, so now let's ask the main question here. If there's an urgency that Allah is portraying in the word iqtaraba, and he's saying iqtarabat as-sa'a wa inshaqqa al-qamar, the hour has drawn extremely near and the moon has already split, there's some urgency, then it's been over 1400 years, to be honest. The Qiyamah is not really here. I mean, when I tell you the rains are near, when I just say the rains are near, what do you imagine? You imagine, okay, in the next couple of maybe hours, maybe one or 2 hours, it can't be more. The rains are near, 1 or 2 hours is going to rain. But if I say the rains are near and it's been 8 months, and you're wondering, what rains? It hasn't rained in 8 months. What were you talking about? Rains are near. When you say something is near, I expect it, to happen anytime. Anytime it should happen. That's the expectation. And that's what Allah is actually driving in this ayah, in iqtarabat as-sa'a, is driving a sense of urgency, like it could happen anytime. That's what the message is. But then it's been over 1400 years ago. So I'm going to show you something. I need to stop sharing and then show you something interesting, hopefully. Let's see here if I can be able to draw. Okay, let's see. So we have a line. I hope you can see the line. So you have a line, okay? Assume that this line is the beginning of time, is your timeline, beginning of time to the end of time, yeah, all the way from the Big Bang to the Day of Judgment. Yeah, so this first circle is my beginning of time, and this one is the end of time. All right, now I want you to imagine if I drew a circle right there. I drew a circle right there. Now, how long do we know the universe was created? How long ago was the universe created? It was 13.8 billion years ago. Okay, so the universe started 13 point here, this point, all the way to where we are. It's 13.8 billion years ago. That's 13.8 with how many zeros? 9 zeros. That's how big that number is. Okay, so this is how many years it has passed by since the creation of since the Big Bang, basically, up to the point where we are. And this is our supposed end. Okay, so when you look at this, then you can actually understand how near this point is, so near to this point than this point. So when Allah is the one, he made time, so he sees this. Well, not exactly this, but this is the kind of, like, I'm just trying to make you understand how relative this statement is compared to where we are and to where we are going, how near it is as opposed to where we started or how the beginning was. So when you take the ratio of this distance to this distance, then it makes you understand, okay, yeah, it's very near. It's like if it hasn't rained for 50 years and I say the rains are near, and in 2 years it rains, you're like, oh, you're right, man. The rains were near, because 2 years compared to 50 years, it's a different thing, right? So that's just to make you understand why 1400 years is nothing compared to 13.8 billion years ago, right? Okay. So I'm gonna go back to our PowerPoint here. There we go. There's a hadith. So someone says there's a hadith I know where Prophet Muhammad SAW said the lifespan of this earth until destruction is equal to 1 day after the 6 days of creation of heaven and earth. That would be on 7. Yes, exactly. This is the perspective from Allah. And there's a very interesting YouTube series that have presented this idea in a very, very interesting way. I urge you to check it out. It's called the Beyond the Lot Tree. You can check it out. It's amazing if you're into that kind of stuff. Some people don't believe that, but yeah, I find it very, very interesting. Check it out. Beyond the Lot Tree. Okay. Oh, no. So now, where did I go? Okay. So now that we understand that, the other question that I was asking myself is, why the moon? Why not the sun? I mean, in Surah Al Qamar, why not in Surah Al Shams? Why not? I mean, the surah before is Surah Al Najm, and it's talking about Thuraya, a star, a type of star, or what is it called? A cluster of stars. Why not something else? I mean, why not Jupiter, for example? We know they followed these kinds of bodies, so why the moon? I don't have an exact answer, but just from my own understanding and my own research, first of all, we had already mentioned that this phrase was used to say that something has become clear. The truth has become apparent, something has become clear. So that could be the reason, because it's already used in this way, in Surah Al Qamar, in a way to say that the truth has become clear. So, اقتربت الساعة, the judgment day has drawn near, and the truth has become clear because the Prophet ﷺ has come. This is your sign that the judgment day is near. That truth has become clear, has become apparent. So that could be the first meaning. Or the other meaning, it could be also because the moon was a very big deal for the Arabs. It was a very, very big deal. I did not know this, but then I started looking into it and I realized that it was a very big deal for them. In fact, their entire religion was based on the moon. And their calendar was moon-based. And Hubal, their main god, was a moon god, and they had other moon gods as well. So moon, for some reason, you would expect that the sun would be, I don't know, but they decided to go with the moon. And also because moon in the Jahili society was a very patriarchal society, okay? And the moon is actually masculine. The Shams is feminine. So you can understand how the moon is such a big deal for them. And to just explain that, what that means is that they had this, okay. I hope you can still see my screen. Let me see. Okay, good. So,
It's visible.
Okay, good. So the Arabs, they depended on the movement of the moon in the night sky. They came up with this thing called the 28 lunar mansions, manazil al-qamar, the lunar mansions. So every day they would go out and see the position of the moon, where it is, and they'll be like, okay, so this, they will give it a name. This is manzil number 1. Then the next day, where is the moon? Manzil number 2, all the way to day number 28. So for 28 days, they would just observe where the moon is going and the movements of the moon. And they would give these positions different names. And then the stars in those particular positions, they would also monitor them. And they would use this entire system that they created to basically do whatever they need to do. If they wanted to travel, they would check, is it a good time to travel? Where's the moon at? What celestial bodies are doing in the sky? And then they would go to soothsayers and these guys who do divination and I don't know, weird stuff, Kuhan. And then they'll be like, can I travel today? They'll be like, no, the moon is not good, or the stars are not good, or something. Or if they wanted to start a business, they would do the same thing. If they wanted to get married, they would do the same thing. If they wanted to do anything, basically, they would go to these people and ask them, hey, what are the stars saying about me doing this particular activity? And then the guys who are doing this nonsense would tell them, I don't know. Or, yeah, looks good to travel today. Or looks good to get married to this person today. Or it's not looking good for you, man. Something like that. Okay? Yeah, and it could be, so Zainab is saying, it could be because the moon is clearly visible. You can actually admire the moon at night. You can look into it. You can't look into the sun. You blind yourself. But you can look into the moon and appreciate its beauty. Maybe, it could be. Who knows? Yeah, so that's interesting. Then also you have to realize that it's amazing, this guys with the moon. The moon is the emblem of kings in Arab classical literature. So they would describe, kings with the moon. So it was a big deal for them as well. Yeah. So that's the idea. And they would use this to determine travel, seasons, when to plant, when to anything. They would go to the soothsayers and they would ask them to do this, right? So that's why maybe the moon and not any other celestial body. Again, that's my own just understanding. Now, we go to the next ayah. Allah says, اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر وإن يروا آية يعرض ويقول سحر مستمر. Allah is portraying an urgency of a major matter that is about to happen. You can imagine the Day of Judgment is the biggest deal. There's no bigger deal than the Day of Judgment. That is it. So Allah is portraying this urgency of a massive event that is coming. اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. And what do? يقول سحر مستمر. That's their response. They're like, just magic. Like, it's just some ongoing magic, same old stuff. That's their response. You know how deluded, how just confused, and I don't even know the word for it. When somebody is telling you this is so urgent, something big is about to happen, you're like, nah, it's nothing. That's how the argument is being presented between the what they're saying and what Allah is saying. Okay, so in other words, they blaspheme the signs of Allah. They just call it magic. Yeah. Okay. Now, I want to give you an example. Again, why I am convinced that this could be referring to the Day of Judgment. So I'm going to give you an example. Okay. So imagine a teacher comes to the class. A bunch of students are just chilling. Their legs are up on the desk. Some are playing video games on their phones, or I don't know, they're Candy Crush something. And others are just talking and chatting and doing whatever. And the teacher comes in and she's shocked and she's like, the exam is almost over and the results are pretty much out. Yet you guys are told to study even one page and you say you have time? What's wrong with you? Like when the teacher says that, has the exam happened? Are the results really out? He's just like shocked at how callous and how this laissez-faire attitude. They're so relaxed in the situation. They're about to go into an exam, but they're not even revising. They're just chilling. They're doing their own thing. And the teacher is like, do you guys know that the exam is almost over? And the results are pretty much out? And yet, this is what you're doing? What's wrong with you? So I feel like that's the urgency being portrayed here and the reaction that they're doing. And lastly, in yaraw. Lastly on this page, not lastly for the entire thing. So in yaraw ayatan, when they see a sign, the question then becomes don't we say seeing is believing? What you see, you believe? Like, I have to see it to believe it. That's what we normally say, right? But not necessarily, not always, especially when it comes to spiritual matters, and especially when it comes to the ghaib. I mean, what have you seen of the ghaib that made you believe? You haven't seen anything of the ghaib. Allah is in the ghaib, yet we believe in him with yaqeen. Like, without a shadow of doubt, I believe that Allah is there. And I worship him alone. Like, I don't have to see him to believe in him. And that's the point of belief. That's the whole essence of belief. Like, I don't have to see it to believe it. So it's not necessary. These guys actually saw a sign, but it didn't do anything for their iman. Okay, because yaqeen and iman are two different things. Yaqeen and iman are two different things. You have to have iman first for you to have yaqeen. You cannot have conviction that this is true without iman. Iman has to enter your heart. You have to believe in whatever you need to believe. And then if you see a sign, it gives you more yaqeen. I was like, it reinforces that belief. Like what happened, what Ibrahim alayhi salam said. When he asked for a sign, and then Allah says, "Awalam tu'min? Haven't you believed?" Like, no, I believe. It's just liyatma'inna qalbi. I just want to have, more conviction, like increase my yaqeen, like take me to the next level. That's what I want. Yeah, so you see the difference between imanan yakin. These people actually saw a sign, but it did nothing for them. All right, great. So let's move to the next part, which is going to be awesome. This word, let's change the. Okay, so this word, mustamir. وإن يروا آية يقولوا سحر مستمر. This word, it has close to about 6 different meanings. 5 meanings within this one that Ustad mentioned, but I just added it here. I didn't check whether it actually is the meaning, this meaning of diverse and encompassing. I didn't actually check, but the others, they're there. Okay, so we're going to look at all these different meanings of the word mustamir. The first one is ongoing, as we are familiar with the word, continuous, never ending. Istamarra yastamiru istimraran, to continue. I continued working, istamrartu. I continued working. Or the idea of ongoing, something that is ongoing. So when they say that this is sihrun mustamir, this is magic that never ends. Like, when you go to a magic show or you're watching a magic video on YouTube, I'm not suggesting you do it, but when you're watching a magic trick or an illusion, you expect it to end at some point and be like, yeah, I figured it was just a trick. I know how he did it. That's the whole point of magic. Like, we want it to end so that we can discuss how he did it, right? That's the whole point of an illusion. But then they're looking at this, the Prophet ﷺ and the Quran, and it doesn't end. It's just, it keeps going, and new ayahs keep coming down and keep coming, and it keeps impacting their hearts. You're like, what kind of magic is this? It just keeps going and continues, never ending. What is happening? So that's the first implication of the word mustamir. The second one is that it's a diverse and encompassing type of thing. Like, a magic trick is just going to be either like, it's going to cover one area. Either it's going to be a disappearing act, or it's going to be one of those acts where they cut you in half, or I don't know, or one of those other acts that they pull something out of a hat, a rabbit, or out of a hat. It's one particular thing. The trick is all about one thing, or it's cards, you pick a card and this and that. It's one thing. And again, I'm just using illusions, not real magic. I'm using examples of tricks and illusion here. But the idea is that magic is just one particular thing. But the Quran is so diverse. The ayahs of Allah are so diverse and encompassing. It talks about family, it talks about the rights, social rights, economic rights, it talks about injustice, it talks about that, it talks about this. It's all over the place. What is this kind of magic? It's just mustamir everywhere. It's not just this particular thing, it's everywhere. So you see how, like, that one word captures several meanings. And then there's also the idea of how powerful and strong and intense this magic is. It's got a hold on us. It's such a powerful magic. It's sihrun mustamir. Like, it's so strong and powerful. The other meaning of mustamir from mur, there's, I think, قُلِ الْحَقُّ وَلَوْ كَانَ مُرٍّ. Say the truth even if it's bitter, even if it's hard to say, even if it's tough to say. That same word from that could mean that it's bitter, it's ugly, it's evil. What kind of evil, ugly magic? I don't want to be near this stuff. Oh, it's affecting me in different ways. When your heart is exposed to evil stuff, and then you, like what we talked about in Surah Al-Qamar, when you're in darkness so much, and then you're exposed to the light, you can't handle it. You want to be away from it. Oh, I can't stand this light. Take it away. Same thing. They're exposed to the truth. They're exposed to wisdom, and they're exposed to something that is better for them, and they don't want it. They're averse to it. Why? Because it's affecting them. It's hard to accept. It's bitter. It's painful. It's evil. Same thing. Sihr mustamir. So this is kind of like evil magic. Like, they have a strong spell on us. And then what else? The other implication of the word mustamir? It's just a temporary thing. It comes and goes. It's a fad. It's a trend. These days we live in the world of trends. This comes and it goes away, and then you have another trend, or challenges, Facebook challenges, and I don't know, the water bucket challenge, and I don't know, this challenge and that challenge. Challenges keep coming up every single time. This is exactly the same thing. That is like, with this magic, yeah, it's gonna come and go. Don't worry about it. Don't even pay attention to it. It's just sihr mustamir. It comes and goes. Don't give too much, effort to it. It's nothing. That's the other meaning of mustamir. And then the last meaning of sihr mustamir is the same old stuff. We've seen this magic before. I mean, come on. Give us something new. I've seen this trick 1,000 times. I know how this trick ends. I can solve it. Yeah. Don't even like bother so much with it. It's just sihr mustamir. It's just whatever was back there, it just keeps on going. It's the same thing. So all that from just one word, mustamir. Subhanallah. How amazing is the Quran, guys? And then it says وَكَذَّبُوا. Ayah number 3. وَكَذَّبُوا وَاتَّبَعُوا أَهْوَاءَهُم. So they rejected. It doesn't say what they rejected. What did they reject? The ayah, the Quran, the Prophet ﷺ. What did they reject? It doesn't say. Why? Because it could be all of these things. Again, that's the encompassing nature of the Quran. Because, if it is mahdhuf, then there's more meaning to it. Yeah? So it's not mentioned. We could read into it. Now, we go into the next ayah, the next part of that discussion. So we talked about mustamir. Mustamir. وَكَذَّبُوا وَاتَّبَعُوا أَهْوَاءَهُمْ وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٌ. Now we go to this other word, mustaqir. And every matter is a settled matter. So they saw a sign, they turned away, they said it's just magic. And then they rejected it, and they chose their own desires. But everything is settled. Now, let's go back to the same example of students in a class. Yeah. So the teacher comes in and says, the exam is almost over and the results are pretty much out. And yet you guys are told to study and you're just sitting there chilling and doing whatever it is that you're doing. And you're saying you still have time. And then the students are like, yeah, we can just chill here. This is nothing. This is easy for us. So what did the kids do? They chose their desires to continue doing what they're doing over something that is urgent, a reality that is urgent. The reality that is urgent is that the exam is about to start, or the exam is very, very close by, and you guys are just wasting time. And then they were like, it is what it is. It's just same old stuff. We're used to these exams. We've done so many of them, same old stuff. It comes and goes. Every time we go to a class, we do exams. It comes and goes. It's no big deal. So that's how they treated the urgency of اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. And then Allah says, وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٍ. And every matter is settled. So we go to this word, mustaqir. It could be, again, referring to the Day of Judgment, everything will be settled in the end. In the end, we shall know. You may jump from one hawa to another. Remember, they chose their desires. وَاتَّبَعُوا أَهْوَاءَهُمْ. They followed their own desires. So you may follow your desires, like what's happening right now. You have these trends. People jump from one trend to another. Yeah, you can jump from one trend to another, to another, to another. But guess what? On the Day of Judgment, everything will be settled. No more jumping. It will all come clear on the Day of Judgment. That's one meaning, okay? The other thing, it could be like, you may deny or reject, because remember, وَكَذَّبُوا وَاتَّبَعُوا أَهْوَاهُمْ. They rejected. You could reject. Right now, yeah, you have the choice. You could reject, or you can call the signs a lie, because again, كَذَّبُوا. But guess what? It's a matter that is settled. وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٍ. Every matter is settled. Just because you're calling it a lie doesn't disturb it in any way. It's still settled. It's still what it is, still the truth. You calling it a lie does not destabilize the situation. You understand? So just because you're rejecting it, وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٍ. Everything is already established. Everything is settled. You not calling it a lie and rejecting it does nothing to the plan of Allah, to the matters of Allah. Yeah. And again, it could be like from the point of view of Muslims who are reading about this. Again, remember there are several audiences that are interacting with this. So وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٍ. Don't worry about it. It will be settled. It will all settle down. They're calling it a lie here. They're harming you. They're torturing you. They're rejecting the truth. They're turning away. They're sending kids to come and make noise around you when you're reciting the Quran. It's fine. Everything will be settled. Don't worry about it. You're about to migrate to Medina, and then battles are going to happen, and Islam will spread throughout the world. It will settle down. So again, it's like a comfort for the believers who are reading this. Yeah. And then again, they deny it. They call it a lie. So كذبوا, is فعل مضارع. واتبعوا أهواءهم فعل مضارع. But it ends with كل أمر مستقر. This matters is established, firmly planted, rooted. It's thubut, is a noun as opposed to a verb. So that's the amazing thing. Now the other amazing thing to look at the comparison between mustaqir and mustamir. So what they just said, okay, this is some ongoing, continuous, never-ending kind of magic. But Allah is saying, nope, this is amrun mustaqir. This is well-established, well-firmly rooted matter. You know, you think it's mustamir? No. It's not. It's mustaqir. It's firmly planted. And then they say, oh, this is just some, bitter, ugly, evil act. Now Allah is saying, no, it will come clear. It will be settled in the end. You'll see what is ugly and bitter. It's coming. The day of judgment is coming. That's what is bitter. This right here will be settled. Yeah. And then they say, okay, this is just a fad, a trend, something that comes and goes, mustamir. Allah is saying, no, this is mustaqir. This is established. These are matters that are firmly rooted and planted and established and settled. You can't shake this stuff. Yeah, so it's not coming and going. It was there. It will still be there. It's not same old. No, this is the Quran. This is the speech of Allah. It is amrun mustaqir. So just the beauty of the contrast between those two. Then we go to the next ayah. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُم مِّنَ الْأَنبَاءِ مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٌ. Now, the grammar here is pretty straightforward apart from the word muzdajar. So, and news or something of news, great news. And that we talked about Naba in Surah Al Qamar. I'm not going to repeat it. So, something of great news has come to them. What is a deterrent for them? So muzdajar is something that stops you, prevents you, deters you, something like that. So the idea, the root word muzdajar from zajara actually has the meaning of painful separation. So you're painfully being separated from something, or a loud deterrence, aggressive and loud deterrence when you're like trying to shoo away animals, like, oh, shoo, and you're trying to like drive away animals. So that kind of loud, aggressive deterrence or painful separation from something, you're painfully being separated from something, that would be izdajara yazdajiru. Now muzdajar, this pattern, muzdajar, muf'alun, not muf'alun, mufta'alun, because it's a maf'ul. Oh, not this pattern basically. It could be three things. Okay, it could be three things. It could be the masdar mimi. Masdar mimi follow the pattern of isim maf'ul in big families. In small families, it is mif'alun and maf'alun. In big families, it is the pattern of isim maf'ul. So number one, it could be a masdar. That's one thing to note. Number two, it could be a dharf. Because remember, the isim maf'ul and the dharf are the same in big families, right? So it could also be a dharf. And of course, it could be also an isim maf'ul. So it could be three meanings being given out here. We'll go to the first one. The first one, as a masdar, it becomes, it has the deterrence power. So this news, what has deterring power, was sent to you. In other words, okay. So that's the first one. So it has the deterrence power. It has come to you, news of what has deterrence power, something that would deter you, something that would prevent you, something that would stop you from doing evil, from doing harm, from doing things like that. Yeah. So it has that power, that deterring power, that thing that will painfully separate you from your desires, so that you can start worshiping Allah. Right. So that's the first one, as a masdar. Then of course it could be like a dharf, which means that it is the source, the place where deterrence comes from. Yeah. So it is the source of all deterrence you need is in it. Yeah. In it is the source of all deterring power. All the things that you need to prevent you and stop you from following your desires, and all that is in it. This is the source. Like if I tell you this is the source of this of something, and I tell you this is the tertiary or like the second hand or something source, You want to go to the main source. I want to go to the origin. I don't want like third or fourth level. I want to go to the origin. So that's as a dharf, it becomes like that, like the place where the deterring happens. Now, Ustad did not talk about ism maf'ul, but I'm going to talk about it because it's my own idea. It could be wrong. Again, correct me. So I'm just going to present it there. If you come across it somewhere else, also share it with us. If you don't come across it, it's also fine. So as an ism maf'ul, it becomes the thing being pushed away, being repelled, being expelled, being rejected, being deterred. So the thing that is being pushed away, okay? Which is basically, you can even suggest that it's referring to the next ayah, hikmatun baligha, all right? So as an ism maf'ul, it could be the thing that is being pushed away, i.e. hikmatun baligha. So that's one way of looking at it. Now let's go to hikmatun baligha now, okay? Now the idea of hikmatun baligha, it has several ideas in it. So, because it's rafa, we have to look at it. Okay, what does it mean? The first one, you can say, okay, fine, it goes back to the ma. It's the badal of ma from the previous ayah. What is the previous ayah? Ma min al-anba'i ma fihi muzdajar. So ma fihi muzdajar. What is in it? Something of deterring, or deterrence power, or the source of deterring, or the thing being deterred, i.e. hikmatun baligha. That is to say, far-reaching wisdom. So it could be that. That's the first option. In other words, far-reaching wisdom already came to them. So you can replace that with the ma. All right, that's the first opinion. The second opinion is that it could be, it could be the badal of muzdajar. Okay, so it could be the badal of muzdajar. So what is the thing that is being deterred? Or the thing being deterred, hikmatun baligha, right? Or it could be sorry, my notes are not okay. Or it could be a khabar. Or it could be, sorry, it could also be the badal of anba, the news, great news. What is this great news? Hikmatun baligha. So you can actually replace hikmatun anba with hikmatun baligha. So those are different ways in which you can look at the word hikmatun baligha. Or the last one is that it could be actually a khabar to a mubtada that is mahduf. So what has deterrence in it came to them from great news. This is far-reaching wisdom. Like the idea that this news came to them is far-reaching wisdom. So you could say that there's a mahduf mubtada which is هذه حكمة بالغة. So هذه is hidden, which gives the meaning of this is far-reaching wisdom. Like the fact that Allah did this is far-reaching wisdom. So you can see how like different ways in which you can look at these things, and it just adds to the meaning and makes it even more beautiful. Now let's look at some consequences of hikmatun baligha. When we say hikmatun baligha, far-reaching wisdom, remember before they chose their own desires. وَاتَّبَعُوا أَهْوَاءَهُمْ. They chose their desires instead of far-reaching wisdom. Like they prioritized their feelings over their intellect. Now, that is such an animal thing to do. Because a lion, when it's hungry, it has the desire to eat you. You can't be like, oh, don't eat me. You'll be like, no, I must eat you. I must follow my desire. I must fulfill my stomach. I have to eat you. So that's an animal thing to do. When an animal is hungry, it will eat. When an animal wants to do number one or number two, it's going to do number one or number two. It's not going to ask for permission, or it's not going to think about it. Am I in public, or what's going on? Like it feels like doing something, it does it. So these people are basically like animals. Just they follow their own carnal desires, and they follow their own wishes, and instead of actually prioritizing something that is far superior, far-reaching wisdom. And how different would they be from animals? Yet they have something that animals don't. Animals don't have an intellect. They don't sit there thinking about the stars and the skies and how it came all to be, and applying their brains. They don't do that. So by them choosing ahwa'ahum, they are not choosing hikmatun baligha, which is really a sad thing. Now, also the idea of hikmatun baligha is that one of the other consequences is that it makes the message of the Quran accessible to everyone without requiring special skills or special effects, or I don't know, like going to a crystal, requiring a crystal ball, or the moon has to be in this particular position for me to be able to read your signs, or whatever. None of that. The fact, and you have to understand again in context, the Jahili Arabs, I told you, they were obsessed with the sky and the moon and reading signs and the Quran and soothsayers and these people who told them what to do. They depended on these people. So these people had special skills that only them had it, and so normal people had to depend on them. But what the Quran came and did is like, no, you don't need this nonsense. Go talk straightly to Allah. This is the words of Allah. Speak to Allah, listen to Allah, engage with Allah, and interact with Allah. So Allah just removed this whole nonsense, that, and we do that as especially with also religions. We say, oh, only the clergy, they have the knowledge, we have to go to them. And then the clergy, they have the knowledge, but they just take small drops and then they sprinkle it on Friday sermons, and they're like, okay, that's enough for you for this week. Come back next week for more. So they are hiding knowledge, and then they're just sprinkling few drops here and there to the people. But Allah is saying, no, this is hikmatun baligha. This is far-reaching wisdom. Everybody can be able to access this, and everybody should be able to access this. So it just dismantling that whole industry where you have certain people who claim to have knowledge are withholding that knowledge from the public. Allah is saying, no, this is hikmatun baligha. This is far-reaching wisdom. It goes everywhere, to every corner, to everyone. So that's the whole idea of the consequence of that. All right, and then we have فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ. Now, فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ, like we talked about the ma, there are two implications of this ma, right? There are two implications of this ma. So the first one is if it's a ma nafiya, ma of negation. And the second one is if it's a ma istifhamiyya, i.e. Question. Okay, so the first one is warnings did not set them free of need. Again, free of need because aghna yughni, from ghaniya to be free of need. Then you take it to aslama family, it becomes aghna. I made him free of need. Okay, so warnings did not make them free of need. Why? Because they just they didn't have everything they needed. We warned them, and they still, they still lack something. Like it didn't benefit them. That's the whole idea. Warnings did not benefit them in any way. So that's the nafia. Okay, warnings did not benefit them, did not make them free of need. They still needed stuff, they still wanted stuff, they still kept going to these soothsayers and to this nonsense and to whatever and to rejecting the Quran and whatnot. So warnings did not benefit them. Or it could be, what warnings set them free of need? Like, what warnings would benefit these people? Honestly, like, they have been given so much warnings. They have seen the moon split. What more do they want? What kind of warning would actually make them understand, benefit these people? So you see, like, two meanings, both complementary, both so beautifully working together, just in one word, ma. Right? So to just summarize that up, is that these people, they pushed away what actually would have deterred them. That is hikmatun baligha. They pushed that away, muzdajar. They pushed it away, and then they chose their own desires, وَاتَّبَعُوا أَهْوَاءَهُمْ, over the intellect, which is the hikmatun baligha. And as a result, warning was no benefit to them. Warning was of no benefit. And in fact, what kind of benefit would they get from warning now? Like, they're not going to get any benefit from being warned anymore. It's pretty much done. And with that, we're going to stop there. And the next, I think we're going to go into now the ayat of judgment, because warnings are not doing them any benefit. So let's just wait for Judgment Day, which is the next part. It's going to start the part of Judgment Day. And then we're going to give some examples of destroyed nations, which is the next big section of the ayah as we go on. So, alhamdulillah, I wasn't sure that we'll be able to finish ayah number 1 to 5, but alhamdulillah, we did, just in time. And I hope I was able to clarify as much as I can. Again, this surah is, there's a lot. There's a lot in this surah. I just hope I'm able to do justice as we go on. And if there's any corrections, clarifications, anything that you come across, please feel free to share them with us so that we can all benefit each other. Unless there are any questions, that will be the end of today's session, inshallah. If there's any questions or comments or clarifications, please feel free. If not, we can end. Okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Sister Ilham. I'm Hafni from Jakarta.
Oh, yeah, I remember you.
Yes.
How are you?
Yeah. I come late. I'm sorry, I come late. This is very amazing. So the people who doesn't get the hikmah, like in Al-Baqarah 269, if I'm not mistaken, it is if someone is getting hikmah and then they get a lot of things, only Al-Bab can get hikmah, something like that, you know. So it is your picture about this one, about Al Qamar, as a kabar to remember, like what is it? Mubtada mudaf. Yeah, hikmatun baligah versus ahwa ahum. Because we are now in the group here, a small group, tadabur anajam. Yeah, we are talking about ahwa. So these people in this 5 nations in this surah, yeah, in this Al Qamar, they don't get the hikmah. Yeah. So if what you said just now, so we are really in danger if we cannot get the hikmah. There is a short video I got this morning. The title is the very short khutbah in Nabawi or in Palestine, something like that. The khatib said, if the killing of lot of people and then the lots of people starving in Gaza, in Rafah, cannot cannot inspire you to do good, to stop the worst. How can my talks as the khatib only can inspire you? Then Akimisalah. It's only 1 minute or 2 minutes khutbah. The title is related to what you say, you know, because those people like us, maybe it is criticizing us also. We cannot do anything for Gaza and for Rafah, right? So it's really reminded me to the short video I saw this morning. That's a very short khutbah in Palestine. It's only 2 minutes. The khatib just say like that. Yeah.
You can
Thank
share
you.
the link so that we can all benefit from that video as well. Just share the link in the chat. And I agree with what you said. Those who have been given hikmah, لَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا, they have been given a lot of khair. A lot of khair. And we ask Allah to make us of those who have been given hikmah and a lot of khair. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Thank you so much for those comments and that connection with that ayah.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else with any other nice connections or comments or questions or anything, corrections before we can end? Okay. I think we're all good. Alhamdulillah. It's great. I will see you again next week where we'll do the Nahu and the Sarf of ayah number 6 to ayah number 10. Inshallah. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم guys.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاك الله خيرا كثيرا sis.
وإياكم. جزاكم الله خير.
آمين.